Hello, I'm Matthew Malcolm with American Vineyard Magazine, reporting to you from Unified Symposium back in the Sacramento Convention Center. It's great to be here. I'm here with President of the California Association of Winegrape Growers, John Aguirre. Recently made an announcement that you're going to be moving to Portugal, and so we're really going to miss you. You've done a fantastic job in this position for how many years?
Well, it'll be 12 years when I step down as president. So May 31st is the target date, and I started work June 1, 2010. So 12 years.
Well, you've done a fantastic job protecting the interests of the California wine grape industry. I wanted to talk specifically about the task force, the smoke exposure task force that you were part of the team that put this together. And it seems like every year we're having, to one degree or another, some more issues with smoke taint, wildfire events, and it doesn't seem to be going away, especially with these droughts that we're experiencing. And the real problem is when you take the crop to the wineries, and we don't have an industry standard on rejection and what really dictates smoke taint. So can you tell us a little bit about the progress of this task force?
Certainly. Well, the task force consists of industry groups, growers and winemakers from Washington, Oregon, and California. So we're all coming together to deal with the problem that you just described, that there's a lot of uncertainty as to when is our grapes and when is wine not commercially marketable because of the presence of elevated smoke compounds. So we've got a lot of work to do on research. Many of our problems and the disruptions that occur because we don't know enough about when the presence of smoke compounds makes that wine unfit to market. And so there needs to be research on what are the naturally occurring amounts of smoke compounds in grapes, so that we can effectively measure what is an elevated level of smoke compounds in grapes when wildfires strike. And then we want to associate those levels with various sensory results. So all of that, documenting that, creating a database, is going to help the industry make decisions in a timely way and lessen disruption. So it's really important work, and again, this group is going to focus on research. We've done a great job in getting research funding. Now we really need to steer it more towards what are the specific projects that are of priority importance.
Well, it sounds like just kind of trying to find an industry standard for, protocol for rejection would be one of the major priorities here. Do you see that being something that we could establish within the next several years?
Well, and that's the thing, understandably, people want yes or no, black and white. And what we know is that we've got a big gray zone. And this gray zone of there's some damage, and what does that mean? And how can you remedy, how can you mitigate the damage that's occurred? So I think we're going to come up with better tools that will help make this gray zone smaller, but I don't think we're ever going to have a black and white single standard, at least not in the near term. I think it's going to require about 5 years of work to come up with this baseline of what the compounds are that naturally occur, and that will help us define then what's an elevated amount. And then the question is, what do you do with those elevated amounts? What exactly do the elevated amount of smoke compounds mean? And there's going to be research to help winemakers and I think growers deal with those issues. It's still a profound challenge, so that's why growers need to avail themselves of crop insurance. They need to really work on that relationship with wineries, because wineries and growers need to share this risk. That's very important, because it's just not sustainable for the full financial fallout of a wildfire-related disruption to fall on the grower. They're just not going to be able to stay in business. And increasingly, I know growers are really reconsidering their needs when it comes to contract renewal, about how does the contract accommodate these kinds of events in the future. So it's just still cloudy, unfortunately. But I'm hopeful in 5 years' time will have made substantial improvements so that there's far less disruption than what we see today. And fortunately, we dodged a bullet last year. We didn't see major wildfire activity, and let's keep our fingers crossed and hope that this year is the same.
Nonetheless, though, this is going to be an issue that we face from potentially year to year in the future. You mentioned also that there's some extra funding maybe coming through the pipeline for those that were impacted by smoke in previous years that hasn't already been available.
Well, that's right. A lot of agricultural producers across the United States in 2020 and 2021 suffered disasters resulting from hurricanes and storms and frost and what have you. Our issue, of course, is wildfire smoke. So we pushed very hard to make sure that wine grape growers can get funding, disaster assistance through the Wildfire and Hurricane Indemnity Program Plus. Had a conversation with USDA just this week. They expect an announcement will be made in early spring so that growers who suffered losses in 2020 can apply for disaster assistance. This is far longer than we had hoped. In contrast, if you had crop insurance, you got paid pretty quickly. So we really strongly encourage growers sign up for crop insurance. But growers who have both crop insurance or without, both groups will be able to apply and qualify for this WIP Plus disaster assistance program, which we think will be very beneficial.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time and your efforts with COG all these years to serve the industry. We wish you the best as, over the next few months as you prepare to head off to Portugal. Read more about these things in American Vineyard Magazine. I'm Matthew Malcolm, CaliforniaAgNet.com.